So hi everyone, as I said, my name is Kylie, and I'm going to be talking about connecting with our audience today, something that we've been working on quite a bit with Destination Think, definitely in this market, but our head office team in Brisbane also do a hell of a lot right across our global markets. So to start, what is Queensland? We do get asked this question a lot up here in the US. We are not a town in New Zealand, and Australia is not a country in Europe either. We're a little island, well not so little, but an island continent in the South Pacific. So with Queensland, we are state in Australia. We're actually Australia's vacation destination, so we do have a lot of the pretty images and stuff like that that we've been talking about today. And like Arizona, we are home to a natural wonder of the world, the Great Barrier Reef. So this is definitely one of our major draw cards. However, we don't want it to be just about the reef. It's a major draw card, and definitely from the US. We've got people who want to check it off their bucket list. However, it's the people, because we're fantastic apparently. It's our native wildlife. It's Australia as a whole. There's so much on offer, and so to be able to get that message out there beyond the Great Barrier Reef. So it all sounds like a no-brainer, right? Like everybody wants to go to Australia. Who in here actually has been to Australia before? So a couple. Who wants to go? That's it, and that's exactly it. We are typically rated number 1 or 2 on our aspirational list, but the conversion is around 1% from the US. So 1% of the entire population will travel to Australia. So really small. And so what we need to do with that, we go in and see what the issues are. And what comes back is the time of the flights. It takes how long to get there. The cost, which, is fluent. And right now it's a lot better for you all to go down to Australia because of the exchange rate. And the perceived amount of time needed to spend in the country or in the state. So we can't do anything about the time it takes to get there. All we can do is work with our airline and trade partners to make the option more attractive. Just out of curiosity, does anyone here know how long it takes, except for those who have been there? Do you know how long the time takes to get there, the flight? Any idea? 18? So we often get, I remember coming back in from Brisbane one morning, going through customs and everything in LAX, and I was just talking to the guy there, and he's like, "Oh, so you just got off that 24-hour flight?" I'm like, no, 13 hours. It's 13 hours from LAX to Brisbane non-stop. I was like, no, and it's 13 hours. He goes, no, it's not, it's over 20. No, I literally just got off the flight. But that is the perception that we're finding, is it's too far to get there. So what we can influence, when we can't always get to everybody about that, what we can influence is to make the argument to travel so compelling via authentic storytelling that there is no option but to book a ticket and come down under. So Tourism and Events Queensland, this is what we are. I'll start with our mission statement. We're a consumer-led, destination-focused organisation that connects people and place like never before through innovation and collaboration with our tourism and events industry. So this underlines every activity that we take on around the world. We have 13 international offices, and we all work in collaboration when it makes sense to, and the rest of the time we work with just an in-market focus. In fact, one of the projects I'm going to go through in a moment that we've worked on with Destination Think, we came at that and it was all designed as a US audience only campaign or project. However, once the results started coming in and the content was seen by some of our other offices, our Hong Kong, Korea, and even domestic Australia markets picked up and started using all the content even 2 years later. So for the next iteration, the next generation of what we were doing from there, we've gone into that with that in the back of our mind, that this could be picked up and used all around the world. So we might be using US storytellers, but this could be used in Australia, in Hong Kong, Korea, UK, New Zealand even. So we've always kept that in the back of the mind, and so some of them are already talking about how they're going to use it without even the final content available. Our digital footprint, always important for every destination. We have a team in Brisbane who monitor all of our digital channels, and they work on strategies to increase connections across the world. We have over 1.5 million Facebook connections. After domestic Australia, the US is our next largest fan base, which is really great. But it's good to note that Australia, so australia.com or Australia Facebook page, has over 6.8 million Facebook connections. And this happens to be the largest destination page in the world. So we are starting off with a good base. They have a really fantastic team based in Sydney, and our teams do work closely together in Australia. And although managed by head office, each of our international offices do have a task with engaging and connecting and growing our social connections across the board. So we focus on more integrated activities with all of our partners in the US rather than your traditional wholesale or airline trade partners. And so with trying to make a bigger difference in this space, we did start talking to Think. We find that the top 3 types of travel content travelers, consumers value when planning a trip are offers and information. So with this is where we work with our trade and airline partners to develop those great deals, and we provide the destination content. Inspiration of what to do. Again, our team in Brisbane do a really great job in ensuring that they're providing all of that inspiration through our social channels. And shared experiences from other travellers, which we've been hearing about all morning from William, Darren and John. So storytelling via our social channels. We've also worked with Think in finding these storytellers in the US to be able to tell the story for us. So here we can see the importance of videos throughout the planning process. We decided to do something a little different with one of our traditional airline partners, Qantas Airways, and we started working with Think to develop user-generated content to tell our story for us. Then the content could be used right throughout the planning process and right up even into the booking stage with Qantas as our partner, which brings us to 24 hours in Queensland. So the idea here was to show that Queensland is a place jam-packed, full of exciting things to see and do, even if you only have 24 hours. Totally relevant for our time-poor US audience. You can jump on your flight, have dinner, a drink, watch a movie or two, have a sleep, and as per Qantas' hashtag, wake up in Australia. And whilst we love for all our travellers to stay in Queensland and definitely in Australia for a lot longer, not just for that 24 hours, we want them for weeks on end. Realistically, we know that's not going to happen, when you get around 2 weeks of leave per year. So we have set out to prove that even with a limited amount of time, there are many of the key experiences you would expect from an Australian vacation that you can do if you only have a week or even 24 hours. So in May 2014, we sent 5 videographers to Queensland. So that was just a quick snapshot of what we did there. So with that, we worked with Think and we got 5 US videographers who were carefully selected and based on specific criteria, and they were invited to take part in the challenge. Once confirmed, each videographer was paired with a Queensland destination most suited to their personal interests and their creative style. Here, Austin on the end here, from Wyoming, he had an interest in surfing, so we sent him to the Gold Coast, world famous surf beaches and home to the world surfing pros. Callum from Los Angeles is a diver, so we sent him to the Great Barrier Reef. Willa from New York produced fantastic footage, so we sent her to the picturesque Whitsundays. Miguel from Miami is an adventurer, so with that we sent him to experience the world's oldest living rainforest, the Daintree Rainforest. And Carl from Minneapolis, we sent to explore Brisbane, our capital city. The videographers were given the rein to create something awesome, stunning, and incredible enough to get people talking and sharing. in whatever insanely clever, creative or compelling way was entirely up to them. The only requirements was that the videos had to include footage of the Qantas flight and experiences and the required Queensland itinerary experiences, or trip idea experiences as per. They were only allowed to film during their travels to Queensland on Qantas and also during a 24-hour period. Now, we didn't send them down there and say, okay, just fly down, spend your 24 hours and then get the hell out. We did give them a week, but we gave them one day in which we gave them so much fun and fantastic things to do in each region that they could film it all, that we could show that you could do all of this in just that 24-hour period. So within this time period, they were challenged to get underneath the skin of the destination. All editing also had to be completed, either in Queensland or on their flight back, and we had someone meeting them at LAX to take that edited content from them on their return. So the result was 5 very different videos that each captured a different destination in a unique way. We then released 1 video per week on our Queensland's Facebook page, combined with a contest for consumers. To enter, the consumers were asked to watch the video and answer a multiple choice question. Users were able to share the contest as well as vote for their favourite video for an additional ballot. Of course, Qantas messaging could also be found throughout, as well as a small media buy running in conjunction. The grand prize was a trip for 2 on Qantas to Queensland to experience the destination firsthand. And the videographers were encouraged to share and use their own social channels to garner their votes for their videos. Consumer votes plus a panel of 3 judges made the final decision of the winning videographer. So I'll just show you the winning video.
Hey!
Hi.
I can't believe you're in Australia.
I know, right?
How was the flight?
It was great, actually. I know that sounds crazy, but I slept, I got some stuff done, watched some movies. It was really good.
It's already tomorrow there, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it is.
What's tomorrow look like?
Well, tomorrow is beautiful. I know that's a cliche thing to say, but it's just so pretty. And tomorrow is active.
Active?
Yeah, like getting out there, exercising, getting a workout with beautiful scenery. It's exciting. Tomorrow is having adventures, making your own way. Tomorrow is scenic, but it's urban too. Tomorrow's friendly, the people are generous and kind. And tomorrow's cultured. It's modern, sophisticated, historic, and futuristic, obviously, since it's tomorrow here. But it's also cuddly and friendly and kind of creepy, but also completely adorable. But yeah, tomorrow is just seeing and being, making every moment count. It's embracing life and new experience. Tomorrow's making memories you won't forget and stories you'll tell your grandchildren.
Sounds pretty good.
It's not bad.
When are you gonna bring me?
What's your tomorrow look like?
So, to be honest, the Brisbane City video was the last one we all thought was going to win. Not because it's not a great destination, but we had people travelling to the Great Barrier Reef in the Whitsundays. We really thought that footage was going to be what was going to grab everybody. But it's not just, but it really came down to Carl's storytelling style. And that's what seemed to grab everybody, either the judges or the consumers on Facebook, what they were watching and what they saw. They felt it was authentic. To put it in perspective, my family live on the Gold Coast, so I thought the Gold Coast was going to win because I love it. You know, the beaches, all that sort of stuff. I thought that was what was going to win. I spend my days in my job talking about the Great Barrier Reef. I'm looking at images and videos of the Whitsundays all the time, so I mean, how can you not go past that? Oh, how can you go past that? And the Daintree Rainforest is a special place. Like, to be able to walk through the world's oldest living rainforest with an Aboriginal guide, the world's oldest surviving culture, and speak to them and learn from them about how they've survived off the rainforest for 40,000 years. That's really special, but a city video one because of his storytelling. So it was really, I mean, seriously, Brisbane was the last place I went to work. Well, what was the place I went to work at? It was just that city on a river like we've all been talking about this morning. So I worked there before I transferred up here to the US office. But it was refreshing for me to hear Carl's perception of the city. And obviously the audience liked it as well. So what next? After the results came in and the ROI with Qantas on the flight sales were higher than any we had achieved previously, we discussed with Qantas and then we both decided that we wanted to do a 24 hours refresh. We went back to our mission statement, connect with people and place like never before. And following a debrief of the previous iteration, we sat down with Think and we talked through what worked, what we could have done better, and what we wanted. This is what we presented to them. We want longevity for the 24 hours in Queensland concept, particularly around user-generated content and storytelling. Create inspirational content targeted for Queensland's US audience. We wanted to make sure that we were specific about that. Evolve the videographer selection, so we're mirroring our target market. We understand that as a long-haul destination, Australia is probably on everybody's bucket list, usually is, but it's not for everybody to get there. So we're always strategically working towards targeting our demographic, and we align with Qantas in this regard. Neither of us have the budgets from Qantas or TEQ to try to be all things to everyone. However, we try and do what we can with the limited budgets. We wanted to engage with Qantas further. We brought them into the discussions early last time, but we wanted to make sure that they were fully involved right from the start and everything that they wanted was fully incorporated. And to make sure that we were supporting their tactical campaign and focus on sales and revenue, because at the end of the day, that's how we are judged. Finesse the content so it captures the experiences that we want that we want to portray. Not so that we are telling the story ourselves, but we'll make sure that once they're going down, we know that the areas that people are trying or buying their travel to is Cairns, Port Douglas, the Whitsundays, Brisbane and Fraser Island. So we'll make sure that we're sending our storytellers there. But also always remembering authenticity is everything. And another thing we also put in there is that we do not want to do a sweepstakes again. So as good as it is to engage the audience, we wanted a different way and able to do that. So we developed the objectives that work for both partners, producing inspirational content that will influence people to visit Queensland. Showcase the memorable, authentic experiences that are unique to Queensland, like the Great Barrier Reef or the Daintree Rainforest. Grow awareness and change the perception that Queensland is too far away. And that's what we're doing with Qantas. Produce data and numbers for Qantas to create retargeted ads and also to support Qantas's tactical sales campaign. Destination Think then took our combined feedback and came back with an overview of how this could work to benefit both partners. This formed the basis of our three-phase activity, Queensland Connect for Life. They propose we engage our Facebook fans to draw out why fans love Queensland, identify ambassadors that align with the brand and qualify them, then send them to Queensland and capture the experiences that they love, therefore ensuring the authentic message would shine through. Share the videos after the trip and the ambassadors engage with the travellers on the page. And finally, align a media buy with Qantas to drive sales utilising the videos, a key element for both partners. So how did we start? Towards the end of 2015, we kicked off phase one of Connect for Life, using 3 tactics. A social calendar was developed and we geo-targeted Facebook posts to 10 key US markets likely to travel to Australia. With an airline partner, we have full access to see where our consumers are coming from to be able to directly target them. Facebook advertising was using promoted posts to increase engagement, page-like ads to drive and increase social connections, and website click ads to drive traffic to queensland.com so we could get more of that destination awareness out there and that inspiration to go. The ambassador search, once posts were live, we spent time listening and participating in conversations and searching for ambassadors to travel to Queensland and to create video content for TEQ and Qantas. The promoter posts provided us with a huge number of stories to interact with and led to hundreds of individual conversations. From here, we bookmarked great stories and eventually narrowed them down to our ambassador shortlist. Many fans were engaging and sharing their own photos without us even asking them, but this led to meaning we had content to repurpose for asking more questions later. We did find that most of the stories shared from the US audience focused on the Great Barrier Reef, which we expected, with Brisbane and Fraser Island coming in as quite popular destinations as well. Stories from the Whitsundays region were hard to find at first, not as many travellers down there to that region. However, it was interesting to see that the Whitsunday images throughout were the most popular. Pretty sure that comes down to the beautiful Whitehaven Beach and iconic Heart Reef. Page-like ads were used to increase and connect with more relevant US followers on the Visit Queensland Australia page. So we worked on targeting travellers who had been to Australia, travellers with a more adventurous travel style, and also lookalike audiences for our page-like ads. We had the greatest response for ads with images of our coastlines. Like we were talking earlier, or John was mentioning earlier about those water shots, that waterfall, our coastlines really did the job for us. And golden sandy beaches, tropical islands, and deserted coral cays. Amazingly, ads featuring our koalas didn't do as well. They came in about second or third, which was surprising because quite often those cute cuddly koalas come in quite high. Also, another thing that we did note, and you've probably all noticed as well, it wasn't so much the content, it wasn't the questions we were asking so much, it was all about the images, as we all see. We made to show, with website click ads, we made sure to place Qantas retargeting pixels on our website, queensland.com, so they could capture the traffic driven by the click-to-web ads in phases 1 and 2. Depending on the interest groups these were targeted to, click-to-web ads performed differently across the board. However, we did note that the grid photos like the one pictured were the most popular images, definitely showing a diverse range of activities available to entice a larger number or maximum number of people with all different interest types. Obviously, results can sometimes be tricky to share, especially if we have a commercial partner, so we really can't share all the results, but we're really, really happy to note that in phase 1 and 2, so ran at the end of 2015, and then phase 2, I'll go into a little bit further, but it ran in February, February, March. So phases 1 and 2, we saw a 7 times increase of our Facebook connections from the US, 7 times our KPI that was set at the beginning, and that was only in phases 1 and 2, so we're extremely happy with that. Conversations with past travellers were incredibly diverse. We spoke to boomers, teenagers, new mums, business travellers, and just about any other traveller type who has ever been to Queensland. We heard from those who often come to visit friends in Australia, people who'd studied abroad, people who'd lived in Queensland while they were kids, people who extended business trips, people who won trips previously, and people who had taken a sabbatical and driven up the coastline. After a few rounds of conversations or responses in a conversation, the traveller was added to our long list of potentials. We did often find, however, that conversation would drop off after around 1 to 2 rounds of replies, as we were being more specific in our questions then. Our content manager did a fantastic job of truly engaging with our audience and to keep many of the conversations going for as long as possible. We often saw comments such as, "This was a bucket list trip for us," and enjoyed stories of multi-generational travel, like, "I travelled with my parents, my family of 4, my sister's family of 4, my great aunt, my mum's BFF and her husband." So, I mean, who doesn't love a nice family, a group of 13 and the room nights that they'll bring in? So it was really great to get those stories through. From a list of around 40 to 50 potentials, we narrowed that down to our top 9. From there, TEQ, Qantas and Destination Think selected the top 3. In an unlikely incident, all of us agreed pretty much straight away on our top 3. And when does that ever happen? You've got a government-funded DMO, a commercially minded airline, partnered airline partner, and the marketing drivers behind it all. And we all agreed in one phone call exactly who we wanted out of that top 9. So now you get to meet our ambassadors. Britt McPhail, So, Brit's now husband Tori, a well-known New Orleans chef actually, proposed to Brit on Queensland's Whitehaven Beach. Typically voted one of the top 10 beaches in the world, and through this activity, returned back to the state less than a year after their wedding. Their video, which takes place in the Whitsundays and Sunshine Coast, highlights their engagement story and focuses on falling in love in Queensland. Tammy Ware. So Tammy travelled to the Cairns region in Queensland a few years ago now with her daughters Brooke and Olivia at the end of Brooke's leukemia treatment. And their trip down under previously was funded by Make-A-Wish Foundation. Thankfully, Brooke is now in full remission, so we send them back to once again scuba dive, which was what Brooke's request was to make a wish. And we sent them to the same tour operator that they went down with a few years ago so that they could have that continuation of the story. And this time, Olivia, the younger sister who was too young to scuba dive last time, got to don a tank and she found Nemo, which she was super excited about. The group travelled to Port Douglas and to Brisbane, and the video explores the story and emotions behind their first trip, as well as travelling together as a family. Tamra. So Tamra Lynn and her best friend Renelle are childhood best friends. They also studied abroad together in Queensland at Central Queensland University in 2000, so 16 years ago. They travelled all over the state during their 6 months abroad. They learned to dive near Cairns. They spent time island hopping up and down the coastline. And through the Connect for Life campaign, the pair were able to return to Queensland 16 years later. So Tamara and Renelle visited Cairns, Fraser Island, and on this trip, and their video is centred around reliving those once-in-a-lifetime travel experiences, as well as best friends travelling together. So we made sure in this activity, actually, we come at everything from a TEQ perspective here in the US of let's broaden the story of Queensland. There's the Great Barrier Reef, yes, however you want to experience that, and the Whitsundays up in Cairns, but we also have this great region in the southern part of the state around Brisbane, the Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, Fraser Island. So we wanted to ensure that everything that we did and all 6 videos that were developed, that everyone had that dual region approach. So that's what we were coming from with, the different regions. So each story was compelling, reached targeted audiences for both TEQ and Qantas, and amazingly, our top 3 could all travel within 6 weeks' notice, which rarely happens. And yes, we did notice they are all female. We really did. We tried not to. But seriously, our female fans were the ones that were connecting more and engaging more with us on Facebook. And then what happened? So sorry about these images, they were a bit out, they were a bit too small. But in February this year, 2016, our 3 ambassadors travelled to Queensland on Qantas and met with a locally sourced videographer. Through carefully prepared trip ideas or itineraries, the ambassadors travelled to different regions in Queensland in a staggered approach. That meant that our videographer and the production manager sent down had a fun time crisscrossing the state to making sure they met up with the ambassadors at different times during their trips, ensuring that the key experiences were captured on film. We wanted to make sure that we were with Brooke and Olivia and Tammy as they went back out on Quicksilver to go out and scuba dive. We wanted to make sure that we captured all of that. Or when Brit and Tori were going to Whitehaven Beach. This was the premise of their original story. To put in perspective, Queensland is 2.5 times the size of Texas. So for the videographer and the production manager travelling around, it wasn't just jumping in a car and driving an hour or 2. The drive from Cairns to the Gold Coast, or from up the top down the bottom, is over 25 hours. So we couldn't have them doing that. We're obviously doing a lot of flying around. There's flight delays. There's all different things that can happen, but we have a fantastic team in Brisbane who really worked closely with the videographer and production manager to really take care of all of that. And so just to go into what these images are, we have images of Brit and Tori up here culling a koala at Australia Zoo. So some of you may have heard of the zoo, known by most notably for Steve Irwin. Not only did we send Brit and Tori on a second honeymoon up into the Whitsundays, and they stayed at one and only Hayman Island in the Whitsundays. Knowing Tori is a chef, we sent them on a food trail through the Sunshine Coast hinterland. So we sent them back down south, just north of Brisbane, and sent them on the food trail throughout. So they loved the new taste they were experiencing and really getting back to nature. Tammy, Brooke and Olivia here are hand feeding a wallaby during a back of house tour at the wildlife habitat in Port Douglas. It was definitely a highlight for the three girls to interact with our native wildlife here. And coming from Wyoming, Queensland is the only place that Olivia had ever set foot on the beach. So she was really excited about running back and getting into the water there. They also specifically requested a city experience with these girls. So they wanted a chance to get all glammed up and take in a show. So we definitely were very happy to arrange that for them. Tamara and Renelle were full of beans jumping off the plane and back into Queensland. So Tamara is actually a twin, and after her 6 months back in 2000, she had made comments about staying on and doing another 6 months, staying on and travelling around or working or even studying further. So her family sent her twin sister down to Queensland to get her, stay with her for a week or two and make sure that she came back to the US, that she couldn't stay there. And so this time round, her sister wanted to come with her again. So we often get that, like when you're sending somebody down, it's like, oh, my husband or my kids or somebody wants to come. So the twin sister wanted to come again, but she couldn't make it in the end, so another sister jumped on board and came down. It's great to be able to help facilitate all of that. Getting back to Fraser Island, as they have over here on the end there, there was definitely a highlight for them. This is the world's largest sand island, and it's a beach highway where they're standing there. So you're sort of having to dodge traffic and stuff like that along there. And what we haven't focused on, and what we haven't through our videos that'll be coming out soon or anything like that, is that for them returning to the state, and after living there for 6 months, they've got a lot of friends that they've kept in contact for all that time. So we actually organised, just on the side, a really nice dinner for them and their friends that are still around in the state and that could get to Brisbane easily. We organised a dinner for them to catch up so they could really reconnect with their friends again. So we definitely have some passionate advocates for Queensland now. And in sharing their stories on Facebook during their travels, we definitely have found that our audience connected with them and us. So we shared their stories and we saw some really great engagements, particularly for the family trio down here with that story of the Make-A-Wish and everything. We saw really great stories and people supporting them coming out of that. Of course, we did get the occasional, instead of sending someone who's been there before, why not send me? It's my bucket list item. But that was in such a minority that was overwhelmingly positive, what people were trying to do. With this, I thought I'd just show some of our ambassadors, it's not going to show me, were posting themselves while they were travelling as well. And so, like, Tori was talking about how he'd actually made it somewhere, so Qantas was repurposing that. We made sure that we were following them throughout their journey as well, and making sure that anywhere we could, we were sharing their stories, and just to grow the interest and getting people to know our ambassadors. Yeah, we've got the girls, Tamara and Renelle, returning down under as well. They definitely talked a lot about their diving and finding Nemo, seeing sharks while they were diving as well, and then also definitely catching up with their friends. Tammy, Brooke and Olivia. Olivia, as the youngest, was definitely the most prolific on Facebook and Instagram, sharing all of their stories. But it's a really great story to tell, and they loved sharing all of their photos. So it's a good one to see. So what now? Well, in the last few weeks, we've been going through the final edits in long and short form cuts. We should have all of these today, actually. I'm waiting on them to come through. And then we'll be able to load them onto our Queensland YouTube channel and onto our website, queensland.com. Qantas is also looking to use the 30-second videos during a media ad buy that they'll run shortly as well. And then we'll also have the longer form videos, the 60 to 90 seconds. It was only supposed to be 60, but our videographer had so much fantastic content that he didn't want to contain it just to that. So they're all sort of different lengths now. So that's going to be sitting on Qantas.com as well. And we also have a media plan that'll be running on Facebook from next week, as long as I get everything loaded in time right now. With all the traffic in phases 1 and 2, it was all about making sure that we were getting views to our website, we were getting fans on Facebook and all the rest of it. Now is the tactical side of it. So everything in the next part, in phase 3, is all driving to Qantas.com, because revenue for our government, that's at the end of the day, that's how we're judged. And we've also engaged with a trade partner who hasn't been part of the story all the way along, but we've engaged with them now, and they've provided land packages similar to those that our ambassadors travelled, so that we'll have that sitting there and all available for them, for anybody who's been going along on the journey and then wants to take the trip themselves. And it hasn't just been about Facebook or a media buy. We've been doing emails out as well. We've got quite a, for a state in Australia, we've got a decent consumer database of about 140, 150,000 that we go out to, and I've already introduced them all to our 3 ambassadors and their groups, and also PR. So we're working on that as well. In a happy coincidence, I didn't think I was going to have any of the videos to be able to show you, but I actually got them overnight, so I've been able to put them in. And I thought we've got 6 videos, but I thought I would show you a couple of them. So as we're talking about media plans to run and PR releases to go as well, and also then just take a deep breath and hopefully everything will go according to plan next week. But I'll just show you a couple of the videos that seriously, you guys are like the first ones to see them because they have not yet gone public.
My name's Tori McPhail, live in New Orleans, Louisiana. My wife Britt and I have just flown in to Queensland. The flight coming over was actually pretty smooth. We kicked back, relaxed, and we make the flight part of the vacation. It's a blast. When I stepped off the plane, all these great memories just kept flooding back of our last experiences there. Last time we came, we got engaged on Whitehaven Beach. I don't think there's a better spot in the world to pop the question. Britt's personality is fun, bubbly, with tons of energy. Best thing in my life, that's for sure. I think Queensland is just such a gorgeous place in the world. All these little nooks and crannies and these tropical hideaways, how can you not be romantic? And the country is so big that you probably cannot scratch the surface after even living here a lifetime. For me, traveling inspires me to be a better chef. Just having the opportunity to taste fantastic seafood makes me inspired to come home and cook. We've traveled all over the world. Nothing has captured our hearts like Queensland.
So that was Tori telling his story, and Britt has a similar one. It's all about their falling in love and the engagement and all of that. What we didn't know when we first started talking to Britt, we weren't talking to Tori on Facebook, we were talking to Britt. And it was only as we got further into it that we found out that Tori had actually been doing work locally based with Louisiana Tourism and also Brand USA at some points, trying to get people. So he actually ended up being a really great ambassador for us that we didn't realise at the time. And here is another one as well.
When I left Queensland the first time, I was always hoping that I'd be able to come back. I love it here. My name is Brooke Marcus. I'm from Douglas, Wyoming. I'm here with my mom and my little sister, Olivia. I was diagnosed with leukemia when I was an 8th grader. My mom just told me to take things into perspective and enjoy the time you have because you don't really know how long you'll ever have. About a year into chemo, I had the opportunity to make a wish. You think about what are the coolest places on Earth, and so one of the first things that came to my mind was to scuba dive in the Great Barrier Reef. It was almost surreal to be under the water, seeing everything so up close. Going through cancer helps you get a new perspective on life, and it helps you appreciate things more than you would have beforehand. Traveling is a great way to get closer with your family. My sister Olivia is like a little ray of sunshine, and she makes things so much more enjoyable. We took a tour of Mawson Gorge. The Aboriginal stories are really interesting to hear and something that is so unique to Australia. Queensland is always a place I'll dream of coming back to. I'm not ready to leave, but at least I know I'm only a Qantas flight away.
So with a commercial partner, we do have to add in some of those sound bites that is not always what we want as DMOs and as content managers, but we did have to put that in there. But I mean, we feel like we've got some really great stories to tell, and I mean, that's just 2 out of the 6, and we have different cuts of them that'll be going out. So like we're talking about, phase 3 launches next week. We have a great Facebook content plan going forth as well, and media buy through Qantas, through all their channels. They know where their sales send. And for anybody who now wants to come down to Queensland, I did just get word from Qantas last night that ahead of this launching, they've put out a really good sale with Brisbane as the lead-in. So if you want any, just let me know and I can point you in the right direction. But that's it. Thank you for coming along.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a great overview of foreign office in the US promoting a wonderful destination. I'm sure I wasn't lying in the beginning that you're all looking at Queensland now and going, oh yeah, maybe that's not such a bad idea. Does anybody have any questions for Kylie? I do.
Oh, don't you dare.
So, how great now. So as a satellite office, just give a bit of perspective of you're a foreign office in a different country. You're dealing with head office. You're working with trade. Yet you're still using all the Facebook page and all the channels that are probably managed from head office. So what's that experience like?
It's interesting. It's definitely a lot of back and forth, and we couldn't have done either of these two projects. I mean, just to let you know anyway, like with Qantas, we actually have an always-on strategy, like Darren was talking about earlier. We're on all around the year with them, and they're sort of going in and out. So it's not just this one campaign that we're doing. We're always on, and in multiple different channels with all of our wholesale partners as well in the US and Canada. But with this, we wanted to go in. We made sure right from the start when we got a proposal through, we brought in our digital marketing team in Brisbane as well. We sent it all down to them. We talked through. They gave us their feedback. And so they were on board right from the start and would come back with ideas about how we could do this for here. But they'd also always come back to us and say, all right, you guys are in the US. You know what you're talking about. You know your market. So we'll make sure. So those sorts of decisions were coming to us. But the technical stuff they were sort of involved in as well. But then also the on the ground or the trip ideas or the itineraries, that was developed with us and for what we wanted to make sure was included, what we know sells, what these guys have, what we've been hearing about, what our ambassadors really wanted. So we had a team in Brisbane locking everything in, booking it all, and then whilst they were running, I was off in South America, my boss was off somewhere else. We're a team of 2 here that do all the marketing and trade for a state. We have a PR team in New York, but we are a team of 2. We can't be everywhere and do everything for everyone. So we really got to be targeted, and we rely on our team in head office so much, and they really come forth. We connect with them pretty much on a daily basis. We're always chatting, however short or long it could be.
Yeah, it's interesting when we work with overseas offices. There's a lot less politics, and all of a sudden with 2 people you can get an insane amount of work done. There's a question over there.
So the videos that you did in the first so that sort of campaign was done, but how will you continue to use them, push them out in different platforms? I mean, I know you said posted on YouTube, but anything specific?
We haven't since then, no. We haven't been doing that. They've been using them like only just last year, towards the end of the second half of last year. Some of our Australia counterparts came forth and said, we want to use this for a huge Flight Centre. I mean, I'm sure you've all heard of Flight Centre. It was actually born in Brisbane, so it's an Australian company, a Queensland company. And so we have a huge agreement with them back in Australia. And all of a sudden, they saw the videos towards the end of last year. They were developed in 2014. But they saw them towards the end of last year, and they've been using them in domestic Australia campaign activity throughout. So it's really there. So the content is there for whoever might like to use it, definitely.
And just a second question on the second promotion, maybe I missed a bit of it. You identified those 3 people from just the engagement with... With social media, we've all got a bit of a stalker in us these days. So there was a lot of that going on. I've learned a lot about some of our partners at Qantas and Think Here about how much they know about stalking. I was oblivious. I was pretty oblivious to it about how much they did, but that's how we were qualifying them. Definitely doing the searches and talking. So Sarah, our content manager from Think, was calling them and chatting to them, emailing with them and all the rest of it. So we did a lot of that, and then we sat down and we did like a video interview where you'd have Qantas and TEQ, like myself from TEQ and Think, and we were there. We would just ask them questions and get them to talk. And then we had that one phone call at the end of, I think we did all 3 within 1 week because it was around just after Thanksgiving or something. So we did all 3 within a few days. We had one call at the end of the last one, and within 10 minutes we're like, yeah, done. Those were the top 3. They were the only 3 that we'd already interviewed. We all loved them. We said yes, and they all came back within days saying, absolutely, can we have more people come?
We call it light creeping. We don't call it stalking.
Sorry.
But in the selection process, I wasn't involved in this campaign. It's new to me too. in the selection process, did people know that
No.
they could win this? So
We-
this was proactive. They just asked, people just talked,
Absolutely.
and then we came in and said, "Hey, by the way, we're looking for."
Do you want to go? We knew all along, obviously, but that was one thing. We did not want it out there for people thinking that they could win a trip. So we didn't do that. It was the content that Sarah put together and she put out there. It was just engaging with them and getting these stories out of them, and we knew it was authentic. So that's when we and then we took it offline and had these, and so even when we were interviewing them, even over video, I'm like, I know Tori, obviously, as you know, having worked with tourism boards before, he had to have known what was happening, and so we got that sense from him as well. But the others had absolutely no idea. We had told them that we were doing some research, and would they mind if we, just asked them a few questions? And it was only after we all decided that those were our three that we wanted that Sarah reached out to them and said, "Hey, do you want to go back down?" So we did it all so that we could get the most authentic storytellers that we could find.